Hey folks, and welcome to episode 42 of my Making podcast. Today is the first episode that I'll show you a bit about my knitting progress within the last 2 months. I've had some special episodes that I have been focusing on. Throughout December, there was Vlogmas, and then in January, I was focusing on kind of wrapping up the last year, telling you all about my makes of 2024. And then kind of trying to work with those conclusions and make a plan for my knitting for 2025. And I shared on my Instagram that I've been personally going through a bit of a rough patch. And so I was pretty proud of myself for having filmed all these videos and kind of still kept going. I'm better now. It's still not very easy. It's a bit of a, like I said, personal crisis. I'm not going to go into any detail. But I'm very proud of myself for how I've handled it all. And honestly, without my knitting, I don't know if I would have been able to handle it this well. So if you're also struggling with your mental health or have lost someone close to you or dealing with just feeling a bit or a lot overwhelmed with how things around the world, politics and all of that is affecting you, I hope knitting can kind of do the same thing. I don't want to go too deep, but just with this preface, this is the first podcast, just regular podcast format I've filmed in over 2 months. So it's the 3rd of February now. It's a Monday. I'm home from work at the shop. So this is usually the day throughout the week where I try to film a new episode every other week. And I thought that I'd start this video off with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing actually my first finished object of my Make 9 planning schedule, which is the Astrid sweater by Pernille Lassen for Knitting for Olive. This is knit up in the woolly knit merino cone or merino wool 4-ply. This was kindly gifted to me by a viewer that reached out to me while I was looking for maybe 50 more grams of a green color that I used for my partner's Christmas sweater last year. And when she reached out and told me that she had the same dye lot of that green woolly knit yarn, she asked me if it would be all right for her to put in another cone of yarn that she wasn't using, that was just sitting in her stash. And she sent me a picture and I love the color. This is the color bronze, and I fell in love with the idea of a sweater. I told her that I couldn't really see myself knitting with it super right away, super close to the time, because I had so many other plans and I just really wanted to get on with them. But the Astrid sweater was one of those plans and I didn't have a yarn for it yet. And so that kind of all pretty quickly became a match made in heaven. And I was so happy to be able to knit this up. So I used the needles that were called for in the pattern. I was actually really hesitant before starting this project. I started this on November 16th and I finished it on January 20th. So I pretty much knit on it for 2 months, but actively knitting on it more so one of those months. I started it and then pretty much put it to the side whenever I had finished the first ribbing, because like I said, I was very hesitant because this is knit bottom up and my comfort zone usually contains knitting from the top down, so I'm able to try it on. This fear kind of proved itself to be something to really think about, because now that I look at it, I could see this being maybe 2 centimeters longer would have helped, maybe because if I'm raising my arm, this actually rides up a bit, and because it has those kind of cutout or this like hemline that's a bit lifted on the side, you can actually see what I'm wearing underneath, which I'm usually wearing something underneath, so it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, in the process of knitting it, I did try and shorten it a bit because I was afraid that it would be too long and I really wanted it to be cropped. So ideally, in like an ideal world, this would be like 1 centimeter or 2 longer, but it's perfectly fine for all of the high-waisted jeans that I usually wear, or pants in general. And yeah, I just wanted to mention how I was hesitant about starting this because the construction was new to me. Then someone in my knitting group who had also cast this on around the same time, but was so much further along with knitting on it, I saw, her name's Kim, she's from my knitting group, and she was knitting on it during our like Christmas knit like celebrations at a cafe, and I'm like, wow, I've also started this, and like I haven't gone past the like hem ribbing. And she's like, oh yeah, you just go for it, like shut off your brain and just follow the like what the pattern says. It's not that difficult. And so that helped me quite a bit because she had already been like knitting past that point, and she was really confirming that thought that it's not going to be that difficult and I should just go on with it and like just do it. And so I did that like after the Christmas party, our knitting group Christmas party. I focused on it a lot more, and yeah, I just adore the yarn combination, the color, the 2x2 ribbing on all of these ribbings, and I really like the detail. That's pretty much what makes the Astrid sweater the Astrid sweater. It's a perfect size. I would say I made size 3 or 4. Why didn't I write this down? I'm gonna put it here because I kind of forgotten and I haven't put it in my Ravelry page, so I'm gonna try and put that in. I will probably have marked it in my pattern, so I'll be able to look that up and put it here, and also put that information in my Ravelry page, which I think my Ravelry page isn't done yet. I've put up a few pictures of me wearing this, but I would like to take a picture from the side so I can show you and like the actual length of it, because yeah, I did shorten this by like 1 centimeter or 2, which is funny because now that's the length that I would like kind of see it like added to it, but oh well. So I hope I've mentioned all of these things. I used the needles that were suggested in the pattern. I got gauge and all. I just wanted to mention something briefly, which is not just simply like to the point of this sweater, but like generally to the point of sleeves. When I had finished this, I was hesitant to block the sleeves too long. Like I was thinking I need to be cautious so the sleeves don't like, nothing like the water doesn't pull on the sleeves too much. I don't want them to get any longer. But I wanted to raise this point and I wanted to ask you guys if you've also experienced this, because I feel like no matter how long I knit the sleeves, and I think I mostly try and knit them to a good length, like I try the piece on, like I think about it, I read the pattern through, like I don't just go about it like totally willy-nilly, like I think about sleeve length, but then I finish it, I block it, it's perfect, and then I wear it and it kind of creases up here, which then like, look at this, this was like the sleeve length that I wanted, but with like just talking and moving around, it almost rides up like 5 to 10 centimeters every time. And that's okay if I like really want to have it sit like this, especially now that it's getting a bit warmer. Winter is like not as frosty all day every day anymore, or if I'm like getting a bit warm inside, I don't know, like cleaning or working, I like being able to pull them up. But if I want them down, I really always kind of need to tug on them, and I feel like, yeah, I knit them to a great length. It's just with wearing, they kind of ride up a bit. So maybe I should have, or possibly could have, lengthened them or knit them about like 2 to 3 centimeters longer. That happens. It doesn't really bother me. I've just realized that I have done that quite a few times where I'm like thinking I might just want to knit them a bit longer in the future anyways, because if that happens most of the time just through wearing them, might be a good idea to add length beforehand. I just don't overthink. I just don't want to overthink it too much. Sometimes I watch podcasters like overthink their projects to an extent that actually makes me feel a bit anxious, where I'm like, I really don't want to become totally obsessed with like modifications I could make and like centimeters, and like I want to go about it in a more relaxed way personally. Like, no shade to anyone who is very like structured and like thinks about those things like super theoretically and like wants to do and make everything perfect and is possibly a bit like overthinking those things. No shade to you. It's more of a, I really don't want that for myself, because I could be I can be a perfectionist from time to time, and with my knitting I also want to enjoy that and have it be part of my more so planning, yeah, but like more so creative brain, and don't overthink those things too much, because I tend to like overthink and get anxious about a lot of other things in my life. So with knitting I don't want to be too like hypercritical and like type A pretty much, which then sometimes results in things being not perfect. And I think there's also something to be said about like accepting things not to be perfect, because like things rarely are. That got philosophical real quick. Next up, something that I have actually finished before the Astrid sweater, but I just wanted to mention this because I'm wearing it. I haven't showed on a podcast since I haven't filmed a podcast in 2 months, but I have worn this and I have showed this in my Everything I Knit in 2024. This is the skirt number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Why does all my knitting have my hair in it? Like stuck to it. This is knit up in Peer Gynt by Sandnes Garn and the Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair. The Peer Gynt was in the color Cacao Nibs and the Soft Silk Mohair in the color Brown Bear. This I cast on the December 20th and cast off or bound off on December 28th. So just over a week of knitting on this. This was a pretty big needle. I think I used 5 and 5.5 millimeter needles, and I got the yarn at my local yarn shop that I also work at. I pretty much knit this to a pattern. I think I might have kind of left out one of those increases here because I didn't want it to get too A-liney. So maybe just like the last of those increases, but I don't think I changed the pattern too much. I did lose yarn chicken and I had to get back to buy more yarn, and I really wanted this to be very kind of sitting pretty much on my like waist. So I wanted this to be high-waisted, but still like a mini skirt without like showing my butt, you know. So I wanted this to be long enough, and like measuring it, it's not like any longer than what the pattern suggested. It just sits up a bit higher on me personally, I would say. But the yarn recommendation wasn't enough. I think she suggested for me, or for my size, to be needing 4 skeins of the Peer Gynt, and I needed 4.5. So I had to go back and buy another skein, and then I had some left of that. So yeah, I was okay with my 2 skeins of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair though, and I had some left of that as well. So it was a relatively price efficient project, especially because I was able to use my employee discount. Obviously that always helps. But yeah, it was a really nice, quick and easy knit. I really like the application, or like those finishing off lines that she suggests in the pattern, to be able to have the skirts that like not roll up on the edges, like on the bottom. It does fit well. I think I sized down 1 size from what I could have knit to kind of, if I had just taken my measurements and like followed the pattern to a T, I think I would have to have knit, I think size 4, but because I wanted this to be really tight fitting, I chose size 3, which had a bit more of negative ease in comparison to my size. And I'm very happy with that decision. I'm sorry if I haven't like chucked in all those informations into my project page. I always try and do that, but I'm seeing now on my Ravelry project page that I've also forgotten to put in the size that I made for this, so that is going to be something that I'll add later on. My third and second to last finished object of the last 2 months is my traveler cowl. This is my handspun traveler cowl. The pattern is by Andramari. The yarn that I spun into a lovely, luscious 3-ply is by Yarn Jam. I have knitted on this for only 2 weeks. This was cast on January 13th and cast off January 28th. And I was knitting on this while visiting my friends in Zurich, and then finished it the few days after. And I have been wearing this a ton. I've taken a few pictures. I'll put up some here. I just loved knitting this so much. I have a bit of yarn left over, so I don't really know what to do with that now that I have like completed my second project with my Marlene Knits colorway. This was a special colorway within a special collection of Yarn Jam. Trisha, who's the dyer behind Yarn Jam, contacted me and a couple of my knitting podcast colleagues on here, and coincidentally also knitting friends from abroad, mostly. Yeah, I think they're all from the US. And she asked us if she could create colorways that she kind of came up with when she was looking at our vibe and our podcast, and like what she kind of thought of when she was thinking about us and our makes. And this is what she came up with for me. We talked about it. We kind of did a few rounds of, she suggested a few like things, and I told her what I was like feeling or thinking about those things. And then, so it was a kind of a collaborative process, but yeah, the creative side and the production side is all, yeah, all goes to Trisha. Like, she is the genius behind this. I would say I just kind of gave my face for it. And yeah, I think she nailed it with those colors. Like, I love them so much. I think some of the colors are even like reminiscent of my hair color, my natural hair color. And I really love this like teal color, which is something we talked about. And then there's a bit of like nutty brown in here, which I also love. So yeah, this was so fun to spin up. This was my last braid that I had left. Let me actually take a sip of tea, because I've been holding this mug for so long. This is by Golden Earth Design, and I'm having a lemongrass tea today, like a loose leaf tea. It's very yummy, and yeah, it's one of my favorite mugs. I got this at Rhinebeck, more specifically at Cakepalooza. Yeah, love it. It's a perfect tea mug because it's so big. Yeah, I'm not gonna put it on because like I said, I've taken a few really nice pictures to be able to show you. I did break the yarn once, right around here. It also has a ton of my lovely hair, which all of my knits kind of do all the time. I really love the kind of gradient that it created, so I'm very proud of the way that I spun it, like the way that I thought of it. I did take the braid and like broke it into 3 pieces, so I spun them up end to end, and then I applied them up end to end, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think that's the way I kind of did it. Honestly, I'm not sure anymore, but I would say the way in which it's kind of also knit up would speak for more so longer, gradual, like color changes. And I only broke the yarn kind of here because I really wanted this last I-cord to be also in the teal color. Otherwise, I just kind of knit it end to end. I used 115 grams. And yeah, so I started the cowl by making size 4, but because I had enough yarn and I wasn't reaching the point yet for the pattern that it suggested like having at that point, so I think my row gauge must have been a bit short. I knit I think it's like the second section of the pattern, I knit to the largest size, and then I just finished it to the second largest size, which was also the largest size. So that kind of, it's like my own Frankenstein cowl kind of sizing wise. It's a mixture of the second to largest and the largest size, which, yeah, it's just, I think, adult, small, or large. And was there anything else I wanted to say about this? I don't think so. I think, oh yeah, this is my third traveler project by Andrea Mari. This was actually my second hand spun, and then I also made my traveler crew neck. I have posted a picture to Instagram. I don't think I've won. I don't really mind, but I'm very proud for having actually managed to knit 3 travelers and spun 2 of them within the year-long staircase spins to knit the traveler, I think it was called, the make-along. I oftentimes feel really drawn into make-alongs, and then I don't always follow through with making the actual thing or prioritizing that thing, especially if friends come up with knit-alongs. I always just want to be part of that and like support them. But with this one, I feel like I kind of, yeah, in my own personal way, I have already won because I made 3 pieces that I love all of them. And I could even combine them beautifully. I think this is so soft, and it smells like my lovely wool soap, which I love. This was the Tuft Woolens in the cinnamon, like the apple cider scent that I got at Cake Palooza as well. And I also wanted to mention that I did not block this after knitting with it, because I had blocked my yarn before, like after spinning and before knitting with it, and I'm only planning on washing this again if I like get it dirty or it's maybe a bit smelly from, like, I don't know, wearing it or like being in a room where people smoke, or I don't know. If it gets smelly, I'll obviously wash it. But this was so plump, and like it honestly really didn't need a block, and I'm usually one to block everything. Like, I take blocking really seriously because I think it's important for units to get to the fits and the drape that they should get to. But with hand spun, if you've watched it before, this is pretty amazing. I love this about this project. That's a really nice life hack. I don't know, I've never heard anyone talk about this, and I thought of myself for being there. I thought that I was very smart by doing that the way I did it, even though it's probably not that smart, but never mind. I also finished a pair of socks. This is my first pair of socks, kind of from stash. I mean, I bought this yarn right before Christmas, pretty much right away cast it on. I made another like Christmas ornament with it. I don't have a ton of like leftovers of this, which is actually quite nice. I've already put in a square into my blanket, so I've been using up the yarn quite quickly. But because I had it in stash, like going into this new year, it does count as a stash yarn. These are my, I just call them Christmas, like vintage Christmas socks. This was knit up in the hedgehog fiber in Renaissance. I'll show them to you. I might have used a bit too much wool wash, like the Tuft Woolens, because it feels a bit like squeaky, which is not a pleasant feeling, so I'm not going to touch them too much. I'm actually going to store them away. They do smell fantastic though. I think I kind of tend to overdo it with the wool wash on these socks because you do really need so little of it. But when I have it in my hands and I'm like lathering up the soap, it just feels so nice, and like it also kind of nourishes my hands while I lather it up because there's so much lanolin in it. Obviously, it's hard for me to stop adding more into the water. I used a 20 round 2x2 ribbing for these, and then I did my usual 40 rounds of leg, so I have a total of 60 rounds for the leg, which is my, like I said, my usual. I did a heel flap, a slip stitch heel flap also regular heel flap, 14 rows, which I do for people who don't have a high arch, which I don't really have a super high arch, I wouldn't say. And my mom also doesn't have one, and these are for my mom. And I'm safe to say that because she does not watch these videos. She's begun to knit, like, I think last year or the year prior to that at Christmas. She was like, she wants to try it again. And now she's been knitting a bit here and there, mostly hats, which is so nice, and cowls. But yeah, she doesn't watch these podcasts, so I can say that. I really would love to keep them for myself, but I made this goal of knitting more for others, and whenever I see her, she, as often as she can, tries to wear the fingering socks in a hand-dyed yarn that I have gifted her before for like a Christmas, no, I think it's like a birthday 2 years ago, and that was one of my first socks that I've made, and I gifted it to her, and she just wears them so much. So she's very knit worthy, and we have the same it's like size feet, almost like a 38 and a half, 39 I think she has. And because they are like stretchable, I think I just always make the same size for the two of us, and they should fit. So I will put them to the side, and they will be the Christmas gift for my mom, which is nice. If you start knitting Christmas gifts in January, you'll definitely be finished by December. If you try and get a little bit done beforehand every couple of months, I guess, yeah, that's a good deal. So that is my first of nine socks from Stash, of which I want to gift more. So that is another one of my goals finished. And by the way, this was also on my Make 9. So I have 2 of my major, like Make 9, ticked off, which is amazing. And then 1 of my 9 socks. So for January, that would mean that I'm quite good on my, like, on my goal count, if you could say that, really. Another project I had cast on are some socks for my partner. This is the first one that I have finished. Let me try and open it on my Ravelry. I cast these on December 24th, the same as with these. I just knit one, then started the second one of these, and when I finished these, I cast on the second one of these. And so yeah, I'm going along on these. I'm actually going to take them on a weekend away with some of my knitting friends next weekend, because a sock, like, you can never go wrong with a sock. I have these in my sassafras kind of little pouch. I don't think this was meant to be a knitting project bag, but I really love using it for socks because it does have the perfect size. I usually take my first sock, so if I have any indication of like length, I usually put in like 1 stitch mark every 10 or 20 rows, and so I can just take them from here and put them into the second sock so they become identical, which is always nice. I'm making a size 42-43 European, 64 stitches with a 2x2 ribbing on the leg, and then continuing into the like the upper foot, and then the heel is a regular slip stitch heel, and the foot, like the sole, is just stockinette. And so I'm chugging along on this. I also have my notes in my Ravelry on how long I actually made these, so I might not even have to take the first one with me on my trip. I'll probably just need to count the rows for the foot, which I don't have in here yet. As far as I know, I also did about 60 or 70 rows for the leg. Just didn't really want to run out, and I know that I'll need a ton more yarn than I would regularly do for like my own feet. And so I just really didn't want to run out on the second one. And this is the first fingering weight socks that I'm making for him. I've already made him 3 pairs of DK weight socks in the past, and he loves them and wears them a ton. So he's also really knit worthy, and so also going to be the recipient of hand knit socks this year. I'm seeing myself finishing that second pair in February and then casting on maybe a pair for myself or for another family member that maybe hasn't received socks yet. Yep. Okay, next up, something I have worked on this morning because I really need to make progress on this because it's a knit-along. It's a knit-along by the shop that I work at, Strickverliebt. We coined it the Strickverliebt Daisies Cowl. We only had a few people who participated, which is understandable. It's a seamed, bottom-up, intarsia and stranded knitting, color work cardigan. Well, that is a mouthful. Believe me, it is a lot to do as well. It is not easy. Online knitting friend of mine has actually gifted this pattern to me through my wish list last year, and I love the look of it. Let me actually show you the first panel that I just finished this morning. And I'm so happy with this and how far I've come, but I've actually made quite a few adjustments, so I really wanted to talk about this. It does roll in on the side, so I'll try and hold it up and you can see. Like I said, 6 of Daisies. This is a pattern by Lindsay Deegan. A few modifications I've made. So I am using the yarn that is suggested in the pattern, which is the Snifnug by Kamarose. I didn't cast on the ribbing right away, but the stitch count after the ribbing, because in my way of thinking, if I have combined all the the front bits and the back and it's seamed all the way, if I then pick up the stitches and do a ribbing for the entirety of the bottom, it'll cinch in nicer and it'll be more continuous. I won't have to seam ribbing as well, which I hope my choice here will make this a bit neater. If I'm not mistaken, I kind of knit the right hand front panel now. This is a great length, I'm thinking. This is really, it's relatively cropped, but I'll also be able to knit the ribbing then to the length that I really would like it to be. And I'm also making the executive decision because I need to have this finished by the end of this month. So it's a short month, it's the shortest month of the year, and it's already the 3rd, and I only have one front panel. I'll knit the next front panel the exact same way, obviously mirrored, and then I'll do the back side, which I won't do any color work on that. I'm gonna seam it, and then I'm gonna knit the sleeves in the round as well without the color work. I know, it's not gonna be a 6 of Daisies cardigan then, is it? It's gonna be a 2 of Daisies. But this is literally the only way I'm seeing myself finish this ever, mind you, this month. So I will, after filming, I have already cast on these few rounds here because I kind of wanted to keep the energy going. I was watching podcasts and I have already cast this on, so I'm quite proud of myself. I was stalling on this for such a long time. I cast this on in October of 2024 already, and yeah, let me tell you, I just didn't want to work on it. I am doing a combination of intarsia and stranded color work. It was really nice to be able to talk to my boss at the shop about this too. She's also doing a different construction where she did actually cast on the ribbing, but she's doing the entire thing in the row. She's doing both front panels and the back at the same time. So she has a box of yarn balls where she's trying to she's only able to work on it at home. It's a whole shebang, but we're both committed to finishing this by the end of the month. And so I'll work on my second panel a bit more. And I think if I have finished that and I'm going to cast on the back, which is then just going to be stockinette in the row, which I don't love, but it's manageable because I literally don't have to change colors. I'll possibly be able to take it on my trip this coming weekend And if I then will be able to kind of put it all together, I will have ideally 2 weeks left to finish both sleeves and like do the ribbing. Let me think if you think I'm crazy for thinking that I could do that, and if you think that it's not a cute look, like I don't know if I'll be swayed to make more daisies. I actually quite like the look of it now. I was very hesitant in the beginning because it was pulling, like some of the stitches were pulling bigger, some of them were pulling smaller, but I think like looking at it from like a bit of distance, it's actually quite neat and it's not blocked yet. And I will always be able to like go in with a needle and like pull on some of the stitches too. And honestly, like it's my first like full intarsia seamed, knitted in pieces, bottom up, colorwork cardigan. And so I decided to be kind with myself and be proud no matter what. I think it's actually relatively neat. So with blocking, I think that this will look all right. The yarn was gifted to me by myself, as I am the marketing, like head of marketing for the shop. We decided that I wasn't going to pay for the yarn as I was participating in the knit alongs, so like kind of knitting it for the shop. I still will be able to wear it myself, but it's kind of like I need the yarn to take part in that knit along. So as I also kind of am responsible for the marketing, this I did not pay for this. This was gifted to me by Strick Verliebt. But yeah, I usually do pay for all the yarn that I get from there, but I also do have a employee discount. Just wanted to make that clear. I hope that makes sense. Like obviously I needed yarn to partake in the knit along that I came up with my boss. And so I'm always transparent about these things. We do have regulations in Europe for those things. I know in the US it's different, but I always appreciate people being very like transparent about these things. So yeah, the Sneefnoek is in the color mahogany and cream. This is the Sneefnoek Natur and the regular Sneefnoek. I had to go up needle sizes to a 5.0 millimeter. I think the pattern suggests more of like a 4.5 or 4. And I think this is everything about this now. Like I said, cross your fingers. I hope to be showing you a lot more progress in my next upcoming video. And I hope to at least, like, if I don't manage to knit the sleeves this month, I'm not gonna beat myself up like over it. It does really depend also like on how I'm feeling the rest of the month, like how my mental health is doing and how much energy I feel I have left for this, but I really do want to at least have the body finished and then sleeves, especially if I don't do any color work, in the round on a 5mm needle with Sneefnoek will go like this. So I don't really see this being a problem, but it would help if I would just shut up and continue filming this episode to get back to knitting on this faster. Okay, I see 3 more knits on here. Oh no, I see 2 more whips on here, and then I've got yarn for 3 projects that I want to cast on relatively soon. I don't think I'm going to talk about these because one is a secret test knit, one is a yarn that's coming to the shop really soon, but I haven't announced it on our Instagram, so I ideally would like to upload this like today or tomorrow, so we'll see. And I don't want to like ruin the surprise, but it's a new sock yarn that we'll carry at the shop. And then I have, and I can actually show you this like really quickly. This is a junction fiber DK weight yarn that I'll cast on a hat with. And I'll probably take this on my trip with my friends over the weekend. We're going to Bremen. Like 3 of my knitting friends and I, and we're gonna have a great time. And I really just wanted to bring something easy, though I'll also have my sock with me. We'll see. This is a future cast on, but let's get back to the whips. I do have 2 more whips and I'll share more of the other stuff next week. We're not gonna overload this episode because I know I tend to sometimes, and we don't want that. Next up is my lovely ribbed scarf in worsted. This is a pattern by Pearl Soho. I just took kind of the idea of this scarf from Pearl Soho. Honestly, it's like I think it's 44 stitches, and it's 2x2 ribbing. I was inspired by a customer who came in and she had this like lovely, warm, like cozy scarf, at least wrapped around her neck like 2 or 3 times, and it just seemed so incredibly warm and snuggly and cozy. And again, this yarn I bought at my local yarn shop, and it's also one of the new colors by Camarose for the Snefnug, just as well as the mahogany. Those are all colors that they had kind of added for the last couple of months. This is the colorway Kastanienbraun or Kastanienbrün, I think it's in Danish. I'm not the best at speaking or pronouncing things in Danish, so I'll might as well not try and show you or share with you the German name. I have already knitted 1, 2, 3. I'm like at my 3rd skeins, and I have 2 more. I have all of them in my Payauta bag. I've been asked about this a couple of times. I'll try and link those things. I haven't been spending a lot of time like writing description boxes because it's my least favorite thing to do when it comes to creating these videos, and I always feel like if someone really wants to know something, they can just like put a comment. Like I'll try and link all the projects I'm making and the Ravelry pages and my socials so you can find me anywhere, but like linking every single thing I have thought or mentioned in these videos sometimes can be a bit intense. And so if there's ever anything you really want to know, like just ask me in the comment section or send me a message. I'm always happy to help with these things, obviously. And yeah, so I'm going to make this super long. As you can see, this is like about half of the yarn used up, and I'll be like able to wrap this around my neck like at least 2 times. I don't think I've ever really had a scarf like this, like at least throughout the last couple of years. And whenever I started knitting, I made those like tiny scarves. Like I made a ton of Sophie scarves, then I made a few Sophie shawls, and then more recently, so I got into the more like the Barber shawl I made, or now I'm making a little, I'm gonna show you next, I'm making a lace scarf by Sari Nordlund, or I made the Traveler shawl and the Traveler cowl and another Andrea Mari cowl. So I've gotten a bit more adventurous, and not saying that this is adventurous at all. It's like really basic, but it's a regular like scarf, like I don't have anything in this construction, and I really thought that like if it's super cold out and I have like my big coat on, I just really want something that's like wrapped around my head, or like I can even like pull it over my head, like wrapped around my neck. I just fell in love with the idea. Again, to that customer, props to you. She made me think of this. And yeah, as far as I know, I have 44 stitches on here. And then you can have a look at the lovely ribbed scarf pattern, which is for free, like on the internet by, it's on the Pearl Soho website, and they ask for 86 stitches. So it's a bit wider and obviously smaller needles, smaller yarn, or thinner yarn. And then I kind of just use their pattern, which begins with a knit 2, purl 2, and then ends on a knit 2 again. So it's basically just a 2x2 rib pattern, but kind of offset. So it's not just a number that's dividable by 2, but it also needs to be a number that's dividable by 4, if I'm like not mistaken. Because like first I cast on 42 stitches and it didn't work out, because I wanted to have those knit 2 in the end. I think that's what makes the scarf appear like the same way on both sides. And yeah, I hope that kind of makes sense. I am using a 4.5mm needle. This yarn basically works on all gauges and sizes needles. Like I've knitted a pair of mittens and a hat, also by Pearl Soho, with this yarn for my aunt for Christmas, and I used the 3.75mm needles. And on the like ball band it says that it's like usable or like knittable for sizes 4 to 7mm needles. So it's a very, like, you can do so many things with it depending on the gauge you really want at the end of the project. So I find that really nice about this yarn, and it's super soft but won't be super pilly still. I am changing yarn at the same point in the pattern every time, and I'll be able to kind of, I did a little, I leave a relatively long tail. I did a like 1 knot, and then I'm gonna weave in both ends, like one going up and one going down. And so I think it'll be, yeah, you won't be able to see it really, but I'm gonna do all the weaving in of the ends at the end of the project. And yeah, I have done the math. It'll be a really nice substantial length at the end of it for me using those 5 balls of yarn. I'm actually gonna knit 1 row because I really feel like it. This is such an easy project. I took this to several movies already and made quite significant progress like while watching the movie. The only thing I would say is probably not ideal for going to the movie and knitting on is that you have to like change sides so often, like you have to turn it around, which this would be easier if it was in the round, you know. Like, this is why I do love knitting on big like stockinette bodies of sweaters in the round while at the cinema. But honestly, if you're not knitting on a stockinette sweater right now, what are you gonna do? I needed a project for the cinema, and obviously been feeling very like accessory making wise, like knitting accessories has been a priority for me recently. And so yeah, I did cast this on January 11th, and I'll probably get it done in February too. It'll just be my sitting at home on the couch project, like watching TV with my partner when I don't want to have to focus on something like too difficult. But I also don't want to get this done, like another easy accessory, while other things that are more difficult maybe or need more of my attention are sitting on the side and like not getting any work done. So I'm trying to find my balance in between all my whips. I'm not talking about 2 whips that are currently more so UFOs or like snoozing, sleeping on the side. I'm not touching them right now. And then 2 blankets that I'm also currently not like actively working on, but which will be both finished this year. They're just not like high priority right now. So all in all, I have like 4 whips, which I'm like super, like 4 active whips, which I'm super happy with. Last whip actually is in one of my knitting Nelly bags. I just got this in. This is really bright for me. I know, it's this really bright knitting Nelly bag. This is my spring bag, and it's going to help me lift my spirits and like be very positive. And it contains my poet scarf. This is a scarf by Sari Nordland that I'm making in this Slavica Yarns DK yarn. The Mokosh, it's called, the base is a merino, yak and silk base. It's a DK yarn, and the colorway was called Dianthus. I got this at my local yarn shop when it was on sale, and we sold all those last single skeins of Slavica yarns because he was no longer dyeing for other stores, but just for himself because it was getting too much. I don't know the details, it's just what I've been told. And yeah, I'm knitting this with 2 of my friends. It's a friend knit along, and it's also on my Make 9. So I'm pretty much 2.5 projects into my Make 9, and it's just the 3rd of February, and I'm quite chuffed with that. I have finished 50% of this scarf, so I'll just have to finish the other half, which in my opinion or in my experience always goes a bit quicker because like you're doing, it feels quicker. It doesn't really go any quicker. It's the same amount of stitches, you know, but It fills quicker because you're decreasing. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. I hope this will look nice. I'm like not totally convinced. I'm looking at a small mirror now that I have here. I thought it would look actually quite nice, like in contrast with a darker sweater. Whereas this one is more of like in my greens and browns. I'm not sure if it goes super well with like my Bordeaux or wine, like dark red colors, which I think this would go really nicely with it, but it's also kind of my kind of skin color esque. Like it's a bit like dusty rose. I'm not sure. It has the tiniest bit of speckling and sprinkles, which I love. I'll knit this and then I'll see how I style it. It's a future me problem, okay? We'll see. If in the end I don't really wear this as a scarf and I just have it wrapped around my handbag, or I'll gift it, or I'll hang it up on, I don't know, my wardrobe and just like appreciate the beauty of it, that's fine too, you know? It's okay. I love the experience of knitting this has been so fun that I don't really mind if I'm not sure how to wear it now. So this is a chart, a lace chart. My friends gave this pattern to me for Christmas and we're knitting it together, the three of us. One of us hasn't started yet, but she will soon. And yeah, this has been super easy. If you're able to follow a chart and you know the basics of lace knitting, like 2 together, yarn over, it's not too difficult. You'll just have to remember the direction in which the decreases are supposed to go in, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I was knitting on this mostly while in Zurich, staying with my friends, and then on my way home, and then the last maybe like third of it I did a few days ago at night on the couch. So this has been a super quick project. I've only been knitting on this for a few days. I cast this on about a week ago on January 25th. So yeah, not really anything more to add. I did really want to weigh this and see if I have enough yarn left over, but it doesn't feel like it, so I think I should be fine. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I think this should be fine. And like I said, it's staying in my happy bag, my very colorful spring themed knitting Nelly bag. All right. If I'm not mistaken, these are all my WIPs, all my finished objects, everything I've been working on knitting wise, and which is practically also the only craft I have been doing this January, after finishing off my spin. But I think I did that like at the end of last year. I'm not sure, but I've already knit up an entire cowl with that, so that is nice. And yeah, I will be working some more on these things. Hope to be back to the channel with another podcast episode in about 2 weeks. I might be vlogging a tiny bit at the weekend with my friends, though I really want to like focus on quality time with them and not like shove the camera in their faces. I'm going on another nitty trip to an alpaca farm next month, so that's also going to be really nice. There's lots of nitty travel happening with my knitting friends as well, and that makes me so happy. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't want to ramble on for too much. I hope you're taking care of yourselves and those around you. I hope you got loads of knitting time while watching this video. If you did enjoy watching it, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel. We're over 15.5 thousand people already here, and I'm so happy that so many of you seem to enjoy this kind of content. I really appreciate it so much, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Bye guys.